Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praise to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives us more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past, in order to understand events that are currently happening on the earth, so get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. Brethren, the Most High is exposing these other nations and the things that they have done, which then gives a much better understanding as to why absolutely everything is falling apart. Everywhere they look, you see nothing but destruction of a system, destruction of the fallacy, destruction of the matrix. And we're going to tear down another huge fallacy today. We're going to look at a symbol, I guess, that is on above many of the Catholic altars. And you're going to get some information as to where this symbol has originated from. You're going to see how the church does business, how they take information, never tell you where they get it from, and take credit for things, attribute the information to some kind of divine inspiration that they never received. And you're going to see how the churches work. Now, you got many people who are doing the bidding of the churches, and they follow pretty much a lot of the same playbook dogmas that the churches have been doing from jump. They do the same things today. I'm going to jump into this book here real quick. Sacred Mysteries Among the Mayas and the Kashis, right here. From 11,500 years ago, their relation to the sacred mysteries of Egypt, Greece, Chaldea, and India. And we know these ancient mysteries had nothing to do with the Greeks, but they always got to try to throw themselves in there. You always got to learn how to dodge that hijack. You know what I'm saying? They're always trying to put the ancient Greeks in these things. And we know everything about the ancient Greeks. Well, they'll say it was came from Pythagoras, and we know that Pythagoras learned all of his information from the Egyptians. They didn't have any of this information. Just like the church wasn't communicating with the Most High, they didn't get downloads from the Most High. All they got was an opportunity to steal information from our people. Okay, about Freemasonry in times interior, okay, to the Temple of Solomon. All right, so we're gonna be getting into this book here real quick. Page 58. We're gonna skip up here real fast. Okay, it's amazing how much of this information is in museums in Britain. So much information somehow has made it into these places in Britain and into these museums. So like I said, a lot of our information is not just under the Vatican. Britain has a lot of it also hidden and also in museums and things like that as well. So they have their hands on our information, and they control who sees what, who touches what. It kind of reminds you of Black Panther, right? When he went to go check out that mask and he was looking for the vibranium, and who had our stuff? The Brits had our stuff right there, where Killmonger was looking for the vibranium. You know, he's talking about how they stole all of our information. So like I said, all of these countries have stolen our information and they control it. Check this out right here. These conceptions concerning the triune God have come down through the vista of ages. So the whole Trinity, okay, has come down from ages. It wasn't something that was new to the Catholic and the Christian churches, okay? To the present day, preserved in the works of the philosophers, and are still held sacred by many among Christians and Brahmins. But we did not learn from their sacred books where, when, or how said doctrine originated. A lot of that would be esoteric information that was not shared. They might tell you that there was a triune God or there's a Trinity or whatever else, but they're not going to tell you all the information as to how they came up with that. And that's all part of it. Okay? Of just giving exoteric understanding for the masses, and many of the adepts or the initiated have the esoteric understanding. Like I said, and that goes back to 2nd Esdras 14. Talking about some books are given to the whole world. That would be your exoteric understanding. And then the esoteric was information that was held for the initiated or for the wise among the people. So they tell you about that whole concept even in the Bible. That whole esoteric, exoteric understanding is actually shared with you in the Bible. But it's about reading and actually really putting some thought and really starting to apply this information and these concepts, okay? Because it is in the Bible as well, all right? So whatever may have been the source from which it sprang, it is certain that the priests and learned men of Egypt, Chaldea, India, or China, if they still knew the true history of its origin at the time they wrote, kept it a profound secret and imparted it only to a few select among those initiated in the sacred mysteries. We need not seek for information among the fathers of the Christian church, for they are as silent as the tomb on the subject. They admitted into their tenets the notion of a triune God, as taught by the pagan philosophers, and appropriated it as they have many other of their teachings and theories without knowing. So see, they've taken these concepts, threw them in their tenets, threw them in their dogmas, but they never tell you where they get the information from. And really, they don't even know. So they can't even give you that information anyways. That's why when you ask a priest, you ask a pastor about, deeper things, esoteric things, or where these concepts originated from, they can't tell you because it was never given to them in the first place. There's just more confirmation that all these people, you got these Catholic Hebrews, you got, the Catholics, you got the Christians, you got the people in all these different religions who try to act as if they were the ones that that this information has originated from, or that somehow the Most High downloaded it to the early church fathers, and that they're the ones that were, before they got their hands on our books, that we were all just a bunch of pagans and we were worshiping the devil and whatever else. How would they know? They don't even know where a lot of their own tenets came from, our belief systems, but they can't even tell you where they came from. And that holds true to today. That's why when you ask questions, about certain things, they don't have any answers. This is showing you why, because this is how everything began. That is their foundation of not knowing. They don't know anything, so therefore they can't give you answers. Okay. So again, let's see here. I'll read that part again. They admitted into their tenets the notion of a triune God as taught by the pagan philosophers and appropriated it, okay, as they have many other of their teachings and theories without knowing, without inquiring concerning their origins. See, they don't know where it came from. They didn't ask. They just threw it all in there. Okay? The councils pronounced them revelations from on high, unfathomable mysteries not to be investigated. And that's what the churches have done. They just said that these are just, pronounced them as revelations. God told us. God spoke to us. Okay, unfathomable mysteries not to be investigated. You don't worry about investigating it. Don't read those books. Let the priest break it down for you. Let the priest break it down. Let the pastor break it down for you. Don't read that Bible. Don't read those other books. They're going to confuse you. This is something that's been going on from Jump Street right here. So again, the councils pronounced them revelations from on high, unfathomable mysteries not to be investigated, and imposed them as dogmas, okay, to be implicitly believed with blind faith, as they are today by the followers of the Romish Church. Through their adherents, the idea of the three persons in the Godhead has found its way into Freemasonry, and on the columns that adorn the temple and the working of one of the degrees, we read these inscriptions, in the name of the holy and indivisible Trinity. And further down, we have the happiness to dwell in the pacific unity of the sacred numbers. Okay, so this is like when we remember now, we all got into the truth. Many of us, I can speak for myself, I studied all the time. Memorizing scriptures here and there, so that when I can get into a conversation, I could go round and round with people. Hey, if they said this, I got to counter for that. If they, can't come up with this scripture, I got to counter for that. But come to find out, those conversations never came, because the vast majority of the people in these religions know absolutely nothing. They can't defend what they believe. All they can run to is John 3:16. For God so loved the world. But then you got counters for all those scriptures, and they got nothing. They just run right back to, hey, whosoever. And that's all that they got. Now you see why. This is what they stole information from who they call the so-called pagans. And they just threw it into their religion, but they didn't inquire what it meant. They didn't ask where it came from, because they weren't going to get that information anyways, because they weren't part of the higher society or the higher group, the priesthood that had this esoteric understanding. So, they that sounds good. Let's just throw that into our religion and say it all started with us. The Most High communicated the stuff with us. And we know that the Most High doesn't deal with sinners. We know the Most High didn't do that. They just stole it from us and said it was theirs. Let's continue. There's more. This is pretty amazing right here. Check this part out right here. Pythagoras, who had received his knowledge of the numbers and their meanings from the Egyptians. Like I said, they keep saying the Greeks, but we know they say Egyptians and the ancient Greeks. There were no ancient Greeks that knew this stuff. None that look like the Greeks today. Okay? But they always try to do that. Pythagoras and all these Greeks learned from the Egyptians. So when you say Egyptian, that's cool, but don't be trying to throw Greeks in there, because they didn't learn all this stuff. They didn't have this stuff on their own. Okay? So again, Pythagoras, who had received his knowledge of the numbers and their meanings from the Egyptians, taught his disciples that God was number and harmony. He caused them to honor numbers and geometric diagrams with the names of the gods. The Egyptians likened nature to the equilateral triangle, the most perfect and beautiful of all triangles, and according to Servius, assigned the perfect number 3 to the great God. So again, this information came from the Egyptians. They also talk about, the Hindus, the Chinese, okay? The Chaldeans, all right? The Chaldees symbolize the Usaf, or great light, by an equilateral triangle. And in the Sri Santara, or cosmogonical diagram of the Hindus, which has served as model for many of their temples, the nameless, the great Aum, that dwells in the infinite, is figured as an equilateral triangle. The Egyptians held the equilateral triangle as the symbol of nature. All right? So we got the different groups. We know that, like I said, these are our people. We know this is information that was downloaded to our people by the Most High. Okay? They can put whatever title and bywords they want to put on them, okay? But they weren't calling themselves Hindus. They weren't calling themselves, they weren't calling them by those names. We had a different language, but that's okay. That's a different subject for a different time. So it was beautiful and fruitful. Now check this part out. In the hieroglyphs, it was the emblem of worship. Now here we go. Check this out. We see over the main altar in all the ancient Catholic churches the representation of an equilateral triangle containing the all-seeing eye of Osiris as symbol of deity. The same emblem is familiar also to those who visit Masonic lodges, as one under which is figured the great architect of the universe. So we know now that the equilateral triangle was talked about by the Egyptians, by the Chaldeans, by the Hindus, okay? This had nothing to do with your Christian churches or your Catholic churches. Like I said earlier, they just took this information from the pagans and then just threw it in their churches without any understanding of where it came from and what it meant. So I'm like, you know what? Let me check and see if this is true. So I did a quick little Google search, checked for a couple of images. Here you go. You got the angels right there. And you got the triangle with the all-seeing eye. There's one right there. I'm sure you guys can check it out and find some more. There's another one right there. There's your angels right there. There's your equilateral triangle right there. Pagan symbols, as they call them. Right there, all over the altars of their churches. There's another one right there. But hey, we need to go to these people and get confirmation of what we're learning, right? We need to go to them and get approval for what we're learning. You got to go to them who have no idea what these things mean, where they came from. See, that's why they do the things like this. That's why they give you fear. Fear, fear, fear. Because as soon as you start to ask questions and they can't answer, then it just devolves into a conversation of, well, if you don't agree with me, you're going to hell. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, you're going to hell. Because they have no answers. Caught them red-handed, stealing so-called pagan symbols, putting them over their altars, all right? But then demonizing and killing so-called pagans. Saying that they got this information just downloaded from the Most High. That he just downloaded this information to them. But don't ask any questions as to where they got it from. You see the hypocrisy. This is exactly why your society is falling apart. Because it's built on nothing but sand. It's built on nothing but lies. You stole information, and then you destroyed the people you stole the information from. You demonized them. But you're caught red-handed. Still, it was stolen property. Stolen intellectual property. You don't even know what the stuff even means. I was going to go real quick into another book that I haven't talked about for a while, but I had it right. I had some information I wanted to just review. How the Most High only dealt with a group of people. He gave this information to a certain group of people. They're the ones that have the esoteric understanding. It was not given to just everyone. The archaeology and the Book of Mormon right here. So this information right here was given, the Mayan priest astrologers plotted the courses of the planets, including dim and elusive Mercury. So accurate were the measurements of those ancient Maya astronomers that they differ only slightly in degrees and minutes from those of our present-day astronomers, aided by powerful telescopes and advanced mathematical formulas. They were fully aware of a 365.25-day year and developed a calendar of an 18-month year and 20 days each, plus a 5-day week at the end of each year to take care of the remaining 1/4 day. They made corrections for leap year at convenient intervals. This they computed and put into daily practice long before the Julian calendar was adopted in Rome, and in consequence, centuries before Pope Gregory XIII called for a conference in 1582 when our present-day calendar was created. Showing you again, they had to steal all this information and then, repackage it as their own. You got a calendar. You got a triangle above their altars. But we need to go to them to get approval for what we're learning. We are going to allow them to say what's magic and what's evil and what's not and who's going to hell and who's not. I'm not seeing anything that proves that the Most High is showing them anything. It says the old Mayan astronomers didn't stop with their observations of the movements of the sun, the moon, and the 5 known planets, but compiled tables of lunar eclipses and predicted these with astounding accuracy. So now you're talking about the moon, the sun, and the other planets representing also the angels. So now as we're doing our prayers to the angels, and we found out, what they're responsible for, who would that be given to? Who was the Most High giving these angels to? Who's the Most High that gives information to? Our people. Do we need to be going to the other nations to get approval? Hell no. In his most recent book, The Rise and Fall of Maya Civilization, Dr. J. Eric S. Thompson discussed at considerable length the astronomical knowledge attained by the Mayas. He declared that it was a great intellectual achievement for the Maya priest astronomers to construct a table for predicting when solar eclipses would be visible. He, like most writers, gives the Mayas full credit for the complete development of all their astronomical knowledge. However, it may be possible that they inherited many ideas from their ancestors, the ancient Israelites. And we know that of course they got it from the Israelites, because that's what they were. The ancient Hebrew prophets attained a profound knowledge of the stars and planets by direct revelation from heaven. For example, the Lord appeared to Abraham and gave him power to look into space as if he were using a modern telescope. So like I said, Abraham was dealing with the Most High. Our people, Enoch, is dealing with the Most High. So, the whole concept of the triangle, the triune nature of the Most High, that would be something that would be given to our people. And then later on, the church got exposed to it, and they just took the information, threw it as their tenets, put it as a part of their dogma, but never had an understanding as to what it meant and where it came from. So he showed Abraham a marvelous vision of the numerous works he had created and explained the various heavenly bodies at which Abraham was looking. The ancient prophet wrote, "I saw the stars, that they were very great, and they multiplied before mine eyes, and I could not see the end thereof." The Lord explained to the ancient patriarch the times, seasons, and the laws which governed the solar systems. The knowledge of astronomy received by Father Abraham and recorded for his posterity is in complete agreement with modern astronomical science. Yeah, because they got our records. Of course it's in complete agreement, because all you did was steal it and act like, oh, well, we're modern scientists now. You got all that information from our people. You said you burned everything. We know damn well that's not true. Moses also received revelation from the Lord, regarding astronomy and a vision of the heavenly bodies, God's creations, similar to those received by Abraham. In their scriptures, these ancient Hebrew patriarchs handed down their knowledge of astronomy to their posterity. The Nephites brought the Hebrew scriptures with them from the holy city to the new world. And so, and like I said, we're not sure. They were already here. They got to make it sound like the old, this is the new world and that was the old world, when really it's in reverse. This is the old world over here. All this information originated over here. Okay? But that's okay. Like I said, that's another time for another video. Let's see here. Holy City, New World. And so one is not surprised to find such statements in the Book of Mormon as the following: "And it appeareth unto man that the sun standeth still, yea, and behold, that is not so, for surely it is the earth that moveth, and not the sun." Perhaps the basic ideas on astronomy which the Nephites had were handed down to the Mayas. Now, as you can see, the Most High has been dealing with one group of people, giving them this information. It was not meant for everyone to have. So therefore, a lot of it was hidden, and a lot of it was under like esoteric understanding, esoteric symbology. That's why the church has no understanding, because the Most High never gave them this information. The Most High never downloaded this information. They didn't get divine providence. They didn't get divine revelation. All they did was steal the information and act as if it was given to them by the Most High. So now anytime you go into one of these churches and you see that triangle with the eye of Horus, now you got a much better understanding. Now you know that they got that from the Egyptians, from the Chaldeans, from the Hindus, stole that information, kept it for themselves, and they know there's power, in these symbols. So they still put them in their churches because they know these are powerful images. But that's why now their blessing has come to an end. And now the Most High is exposing their crimes. All praise is the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom, family.